All right, I think we have seven who are joining us this morning. Again, good morning, everyone who's joining us today. Again, my name is Elijah Wooten, Business Navigator with the City of Port St. Lucie. And this series, which we call Before You Sign a Lease, is for folks like yourself that are considering a location here in Port St. Lucie, but aren't quite certain what the city's requirements are, and likewise, any revisions or renovations you may have to make as you open your new business. Today's workshop, we have Teresa Aronson, who is the president of the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. She'll be going over their small business assistance program, which is ideal for folks in your spot right now that are shopping around, making decisions, trying to decide where you're going to locate, and then what you need to do to open the business. And so Teresa will go over the Chamber's program and how you can become involved. Next, we'll have Isai Chavez, who's our planner in our planning and zoning department. And he'll speak on, what the zoning requirements are. So when you find an ideal location before you sign the lease, or in some instances, purchase a property, you want to make certain that what you want to do, you can do per the zoning laws of in the city of Port St. Lucie. And so Isai will kind of go over how the planning and zoning department reviews applications, how they determine what can be allowed, what requires city council approval, or what may at this point be prohibited. And then I will go over briefly, some of the services provided through the Business Navigator program, and then also the process for you to obtain a business tax receipt. Today's workshop, what we'll ask you to do as we are presenting, to have your mics muted, but at the conclusion of each presentation, we'll allow you to unmute your mics and so you can ask presenters questions. And with that, we'll turn it over to Teresa.
Hi, everybody. So everybody's a panelist, no attendees today, so they're able to interact. I'm just wondering, and I don't know if you all know how to raise your hand or if you can unmute. There's like 5 of you that are attending the workshop, and I'm wondering how many of you are actually going to occupy commercial or retail space? Is there anybody? Is there any way you can unmute and tell me?
So the mute feature is on your left bottom corner. If you just click the microphone icon, and then would allow you to unmute.
And I say that because our program, the Chamber's program for small business assistance, is for people that are going to occupy space, retail, commercial space. So I will go into greater detail if I know that you are going to occupy space. But I will go ahead and start anyway, because it's really not bad for you to know, even if you're not going into space right now, for the future. If you have friends that have space, you can tell them about ours. So there's sort of a natural progression of things. And Isai is going to talk to you today about when you've located your spot, finding out if it's zoned correctly for you. And we actually can work with you before that to help identify spots that will work for you. And so it kind of goes, our step, reach out to us. Let's talk about what spots are you looking at? What are your options? What bays? What rentals? Let us know what area. And then once we identify something, I always recommend you go to Isai and you find out exactly what, if is that going to work in that space. So I'm going to share our PowerPoint right now, if I can find it. There it is. And so ours is called the Small Business Assistance Program. It is a free program. It is open to anybody in St. Lucie County that wants to have occupied space in St. Lucie County for their business. Free. You don't have to be a member of the chamber, none of that stuff. And the point is, before you buy your land, build, lease, or even expand in your existing structure, or even bay, or you're doing a build out, or you want to do improvements, please give us a call. We've assembled a team of experts. We have an engineer, we have a planner, we have an architect, we have an environmentalist. We've got just about everything you need. We have the expertise for it to help you overcome, or at least foresee, some of the things that might arise in your process, i.e., is it the correct zoning? Is it been updated lately? Is it going to meet code? Who occupied that space last, and what did they use it for, and what does that mean for your business? So most people don't know that. They think, okay, There's this bay. It's in a plaza. The plaza's right off Port St. Lucie Boulevard. That sounds great. I'm going to get, visual customers seeing it when they drive by, and the rent is awesome. So I'm going to go rent this bay for my business. Well, once you get there, you may find out that your business can't go there, or there's issues with the structure itself that will not be cohesive for your business. So we've put this team of experts together, and I can't go to the next slide. Oh, here we go. We put the team of experts together. And we, as I mentioned, we want you to work with us before you buy, build, lease, or expand. I kind of went over the whole program. The reality is that whenever you do certain things to commercial space, a lot of things to commercial space, you're going to need a permit. And when it involves a permit, we think that please consult us for free, and we'll see if we can help you navigate even that process and what you're going to need to know. So all of our experts will give you free advice. You won't know who they are. I'll just let you know that the architect says maybe you need to watch for the fact that the firewall hasn't been updated in over 2 decades. Or, you are going to be required to have a sprinkler system installed. So we will just give you little nuggets of information for things that you need to look out for. They're not necessarily definites. None of the information we give you is based on you hiring their services. This is just things that we'd like to say, hey, if you're going in here, take a look at these things and make sure you're aware of it, because it could be incredibly costly in the long run. If you have to sprinkle someplace, if you need new exhaust, if you need new plumbing because of the type of your business, these are all extra expenses that you're going to incur. So I usually do this, and if you guys can unmute yourself, that'd be great. We do a little interactive here, and it's just sort of an example. If I'm a business, I'm opening a spa, and I've identified 3 possible locations. And I like that you guys can be interactive, because then you can tell me what you think the answer is. One of them is a former tanning salon that opened in 2018 and closed last year. It has treatment rooms, but the decor doesn't really work for my vision for my business. A former spa, it was in the space for 15 years and closed last year. The rooms and decor are much better than the tanning salon. So I really like the space a lot better. Or a former residential home, formerly a doctor's office. He remodeled the inside recently, and his location would really, really work for me. So can anybody, and I'm going to see if I can view everybody. Does anybody have any idea what might be the best space, or can think of some problems that might arise from the space? Even if Elijah and Isai, if you guys want to take a crack at it too, go ahead. I mean, Elijah, I'm sure you're looking at it going, I can see potential problems at every one of these, right? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh.
What?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I could see all 3 where you may have some potential hiccups that may pop up. Again, for the first option, you have a former tanning salon that opened 2018 but closed last year. Again, the treatment rooms, it depends on what type of services that were being offered.
Right.
Sometimes when you're going into an existing space, even small changes could have a ripple effect. So if that tanning salon was using a tanning bed from 2018 and now a newer version in 2021 is available, but it has more power that it's pulling, then you may have to change your electrical system because the equipment has changed. And likewise, yeah, so sometimes small changes, even though it's a similar business, may require you to make additional investments in a space. But, some things you also have to look at, not just the physical space, but the prior use. And so if it was a tanning salon in 2018 that just closed, why do you want to go there? Was it something that prevented them from being successful? Sometimes you might, look at a space that looks ideal, but it has inadequate parking. Or, the businesses may not be compatible where you have a lot of daytime business which absorbs a lot of parking. And so your customers aren't able to easily park and they'll just go someplace else. And so sometimes not the physical space, but also just the business conditions that you're in, you know.
The access, yeah. Because I mean, if the tanning salon could make it, maybe, people don't tan anymore. We live in South Florida, but you don't know. That's
Sure.
a yeah. So there's always potentials there. The second one, it opened, it's a spa to a spa, but it opened 15 years ago and it closed last year. So this one's kind of tricky because in the city of Port St. Lucie, if you're going from a spa to a spa, the updates are less stringent, which we thank you for very much, City of Port St. Lucie. So if you're going from a spa to a spa, you don't have to update everything in the same manner. When you change the use, if I go from a spa to a tanning salon, I have to update everything, which would include ADA regulations, which I think changed last in like 2016. So those are totally different from what they were when this place opened. So if I take that place and I'm maintaining the status as a spa, I'm going to get a lot of buy-in there. But if I change the use, I'm going to have to update that. I'm going to have to update the bathrooms. I may have to update doorways. There's a lot of stuff that brings in the firewall, all that kind of great stuff too. So that one's always fun, but we're trying to get this county to do the same thing you guys do, because we appreciate you do that. And then the former residential home. Oh my goodness, Elijah, I wouldn't even know where to start there.
Yes, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It could be anything. And just so you know, and I always tell this story, Elijah knows this, that there was a daycare and they wanted to purchase property on the boulevard, which was formerly, those are all GDC lots. So they're about, quarter acre or so. And they have a certain amount, they're a certain amount of width and length. All the lots in Port St. Lucie platted by GDC are the same. And it turns out when you have a daycare, your frontage, the front part of your daycare is required to be longer than what those lots are on Port St. Lucie Boulevard. But who would know that? Because we've had daycares on the boulevard before, but you would not be able to get that use permitted for that lot today. So these things change all the time, and people don't, why would you know that? You're an expert at taking care of kids. You know how to run a daycare, but why would you know the frontage of a daycare needs in today's, state and federal and local ordinances? You wouldn't typically know that unless you've built daycares before. So that's why we have our group of experts that will kind of help you through that process. So we actually, we let this person know that, and they said, okay, well, I'm going to cancel this contract. I don't want to buy this lot because she wasn't going to be able to use it for the use she needed it for. So that's kind of our program in a nutshell. And there is my information. And I'm going to stop sharing because Elijah can send this out to you as well. And that way I can answer any questions. We're down to 6. I'm sorry, Elijah.
No, it's fine.
Is that my fault? I'm going to take that personally. There's another attendee, though. If you want to let him in, there's somebody waiting to get in, I think. Okay. As an attendee. All right. Does anybody have any questions for me on that part of it? I don't take too long because not everybody's going to be occupying space. Sometimes people are just getting their business tax license for home-based businesses or other reasons. So, but if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. No? All right. I did mine. That was fast. How long was that? 14 minutes.
There you go.
All right. And I've stopped sharing, right?
Yep. You stopped sharing. So it's available. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Elijah, for letting me do this. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Next, we have Isai Chavez, who's a planner in our planning and zoning department. And so Isai will kind of go over, once you've gone through Teresa's program and kind of looked at, the different issues that may come up for the physical location you're considering, then you're at a point where you're ready to make an application to the city for your business tax receipt. And so one of the first stops is through our planning and zoning department. And they would look at the physical location, what the property is located, is zoned as, and then what are all the uses that are allowed in those zoning categories, either as permitted uses or uses that require city council approval, which we call special exception use. approval. So Isaiah will kind of go over, how planning and zoning is an integral role in your business decision of a location, and then kind of walk through a little bit of their process. Again, Isaiah, thanks again for participating. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Elijah, and thanks, Teresa. That's a great presentation. I'd like to mention, because Teresa did bring this up, this if you're looking for a home-based occupation, this won't apply. This is if you're looking for a commercial space, because for home-based occupations, you go directly to business tax. However, if it's a commercial space, then planning and zoning will come into play. And every location that you look into has a zoning code section. There are very common ones like general commercial, less common ones like neighborhood commercial, there's industrial, there's warehouse industrial. Each one has different uses that can go under that code section depending on the intensity. If something is more heavy industrial, it will fall under one category. If it's more like light industrial, it will fall under another category. And these code sections, they govern things like building height, setbacks, setbacks from the property line. But the most probably for your case, since you are looking to put your business in a location, an existing location in the city, most likely is what is a permitted use. And when you look at a code section, it'll look something like this. It'll have a permitted uses list. This is general commercial, a very common one. And if your use is in there, and that is a good sign that you can move forward with pursuing that location. I always encourage people to give a call to the planning and zoning department and find out if the use is permitted under the zoning category. Not because they're going to go through an extensive review of the location, but this is always very important. And if it should so happen that it's not a permitted use and it ends up being a special exception use, which requires city council approval, that can be avoided just by simply knowing if it's a permitted use in that zoning category. However,
I'm sorry, Isai. So on our screen, it's still showing your main PowerPoint. It's not in the presentation mode. So I'm not setting up the slides.
Oh, I probably should ask. Let me. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to try this again. Screen 2. What is everyone seeing at this point?
We don't see your screen yet, just you.
Yeah, okay. All right. No matter how many of these I do, still always. Okay. So now you are seeing the PowerPoint, but not on slideshow, correct?
Correct. It's on the slide, what is zoning, but we still see the slides on the
okay.
left.
Let me see if and now? No.
It's the same.
It's the same, so it's not on slideshow. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
So then I probably have to do it manually. So if you guys seeing a different slide now?
Yeah, if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll do it. Just seems to be that way. But this is what I was referring to earlier. Thanks for bringing that up, Elijah. Sure. This is the code section for general commercial. You'll see all the principal uses. And it's always a good idea to at least know this before you move forward with a location. Now, when the actual in-depth review will occur is when you submit one of these forms. This is a use and occupancy review application that is reviewed by myself here in the Planning and Zoning Department. And what we look at here is the zoning to make sure that it is a permitted use. But what we also look at is the parking calculations, and each use has a different parking ratio. And what that means is how many spaces are required per square feet. You will see, for example, that office or retail will require more parking per square footage than, say, a warehouse use. And that actually is important because, you know, let's say, for example, that your use is a permitted use under the zoning category of that location that you're looking at, but your use has a higher parking ratio, requires more parking. That also may require a special exception use that requires approval by city council. Unless, for example, when the site was approved, it was approved with excess parking. In other words, they provided more parking than what was required. In some cases, that may spare you that step. But this is what I was referring to, and I know it's kind of small. See if I can, oops, sorry, stop sharing that. Okay. Oh, and I think I stopped sharing my screen too, did I?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Back to that. I was trying to make it a little bigger so we can zoom in a little bit, hopefully. Let's see. Just to give you an example here as a recreational facility, restaurants, one space for each 200 square feet. Here's, like I mentioned, warehouse, one space for each 500 square feet. And so that also comes into the review. The main two components, as I said, is the zoning. Is it a permitted use? And what is the parking? Does it match the site? Does it require more parking? Is it the same? And those really are the gist of that review. Now, I will say that this form, I'm going to zoom out. When it comes to getting your business tax receipt, it used to be called an occupational license. This is the first step. Elijah's going to talk about business tax. They will accept the business tax receipt application and this at the same time, but they won't let you move forward on the business tax receipt application unless you get approval from planning and zoning first. So once you get approved by planning and zoning first, that gets sent to the business tax division, and then they get back to you with next steps that involve the building department and an inspection. But this is always the first step, and you won't be able to proceed unless this is done first. I think another important thing to mention, oftentimes when you're looking at a location, you're also probably looking to do some work inside that location, maybe an interior build out, an tenant improvement. There is a process where you can think of it as a pre-permit application, where it gets reviewed by planning and zoning, utilities, and public works. It's called a compliance form. And just know, I always encourage people that to ensure you get this approved by planning and zoning first, the use and occupancy. And then once you get planning and zoning, submit the compliance form, because often what will happen is the planner that is reviewing the compliance form will hold on to it until they've seen that you've gotten the business tax receipt application approved. Or if that compliance form, let's say you get down to the permit application stage with the building department, they'll also hold it at times until they've seen you've been approved for your use before you get approved for the work that you want to do inside. So as a good idea, if you're looking, if you have both in mind, get the planning and zoning approval first, then submit the compliance form. That way you know that your use is being reviewed already, and you can go ahead and the compliance form can move smoothly down the process. What I was referring to is this form here. This is the compliance form. Now it's all online, but building department will require you to go through this process before you submit your permit application for whatever work you're doing on the inside. Okay, or exterior as well. This gives you an idea of some of the things that fall under that category. As you'll see, interior build outs, there are many things here. So it's just about anything that you can think of. We'll go through that compliance form process before you're able to submit the permit application with the building department. And I just put this information here. This is our main line. You can ask for the planner of the day, and any planner can go over with you whether your use is acceptable under a zoning. Like I said, they won't go in depth. That is when you submit the use and occupancy form, but they can at the very least look at that. And it's always a good idea to know that before you sign the lease. So that's all I have to say. Does anyone have any questions? Stop sharing.
So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and you could ask either Teresa or Isaid.
I noticed a lot of people with us today are commercial realtors, which is great.
Good.
Love that one. We're actually starting to do some private training with commercial realtors where I'm actually bringing in some planners and some engineers to sort of, give them as much base knowledge as they possibly can to help their clients find the right spot for them. Because again, I mean, we all know this stuff is a little weedy from time to time, all of the ordinances and state statute so a lot of it is very weedy. So anytime we can get in front of commercial realtors, we're so happy to do so. So we are doing some private training.
Good.
To mention that, because a lot of them are commercial realtors.
And I like to add, I think it's always best when it comes to these kind of things, always go from a worst case scenario. Don't just assume that because a use was there that is similar to yours, that was approved there previously, that the same thing applies when you're applying for your use in the present. Because that use may have been approved as a special exception use by city council, something that is not transferred. So don't always assume, oh, there was a gym there, so I'm a gym or I'm a similar facility, training facility. That means that it's all good. I don't need to do my due diligence. It's always think from worst case scenarios. It's always important to do your due diligence.
That brings up a good, for instance, there was a car wash. And it was a car wash previously, and it was built as a car wash, still operated as a car wash. So you'd think I can just go and I can buy this car wash, and now I own a car wash. But the special exception on it had expired, so they had to go through that process all over again. So it's not always black and white, and you may think one way and find out something else is the case. And also, this is all about the city of Port St. Lucie today, but different jurisdictions handle things differently as well. And so that can really trip people up from time to time.
Okay, so that's great points. And also to Isaid's comment, even if you're going into a space that may have not required special exception use, looks very similar to what you would like to do. Again, sometimes those small changes create things that you have to correct. For example, let's say you are buying a salon, which mainly just had hairstylists, but now you also want to add nail techs to that. So technically, yes, you are still a salon. However, because now you're adding nail techs, you have to include a ventilation system in that space. And so that's an additional expense that you may not have anticipated because you just assumed, one salon is just like another salon, so it shouldn't be an issue. So you always want to give yourself adequate time to go through the process, because what happens in the other example is when people are rushing and they're trying to secure the space and they put down the money and they want to open up next week, then that's when you have issues because they didn't factor in the time it takes just to go through the application and review process. They didn't factor in the time it may take it to go through plan review if they do have to renovate the space, and for the contractor to build out the space, and for inspections, and for business tax to finish the process. So it's better to kind of wait, be patient, go through the process, get your approvals, kind of start on more solid ground, versus if you're more hurried, then you may find a situation where you've got into a space that now costs $50,000 to correct and your budget was $20,000. So that's not a good place to be. So that's why we wanted to have these discussions with you to kind of give you the heads up of the services that are available. And again, all of these are free of charge. It's not that you're paying for this advice. But we want our businesses to have a great chance of success, and a part of that is just being an educated customer. So next, I'll just go give you a very brief overview of the services provided through our business business navigator program and my role with the city, and then go through the process to obtain a business tax receipt. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a business navigator for the city. I work in the city manager's office, and my job is kind of three main roles. The first and primary is to work with applicants that are going through our process, whether it's brand new building and you're putting in a site plan and you have a contractor that's going to build the building, or if you're going into existing space and making renovations to either educate the business owner on what the process is, as well as their professional team that's been hired, and then work with the applicant and the departments that are normally the reviewing departments, which would be our planning and zoning department, building department, public works department, utility systems department, and then also coordinate with outside groups such as Florida Power and Light, as well the fire district, anything that's kind of related to development, so that one, you understand what the process entails, but then two, if you do run into problems, trying to work with the staff to figure out what are some of the options for you to correct the issues so you can move your project forward. Second would be the point of contact for the St. Lucie County Economic Development Council. And so if there are businesses that are moving into the community, creating a number of jobs, investing a number of dollars in capital improvements, or existing companies that are expanding but may be considering leaving St. Lucie County, and we want to retain them here, then normally those companies may request some type of assistance or incentives from the City of Port St. Lucie County, State of Florida. And so we present those to City Council. And then once approved and they've built their building, we then monitor to make certain that they've retained the jobs and created the new jobs. And then the third component is the liaison between the small businesses and City Hall. And so in that regard, not only do I interact with the different departments, but sometimes there may be issues that are outside of development. If you have an issue with your water bill, then that's a different section of utilities that we'll coordinate with. Or if you had some code violations and corrections, then again, that's a different department, but kind of to be your liaison with with City Hall and regarding business issues. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of go over our business tax application process. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me see if can you see my screen? I don't see that. Let me stop sharing. I think I shared the wrong screen.
I think it was right. I saw like the flow chart.
Did you see it on your screen?
Yeah, I did see a flow chart. Not anymore, but when you were sharing the screen, yeah.
Do you see it now?
No.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. You have 3 screens.
Make sure I stop sharing. Did I? Okay. So that's important. That may be stopping you. No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
Yep, we can see it now.
You see the flow chart?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because I can't see which screen you're looking at. All right. So you've gone through the Chambers program. You've kind of ironed out some of the initial issues with the space that you're considering. As Isai had mentioned, when you contact the business tax division to apply for your business tax receipt, the first stop will be through planning and zoning. And so he's kind of gone over, the review process for planning and zoning, which once approved goes back to our business tax division. One thing I also want to encourage businesses to do is, you have to understand from the staff's perspective, they deal with a lot of applications. And so, it's better for you to better explain what it is that you are going to do, because that also has an impact on the review process. And also you want to look at specifically what you're going to do initially. You may have aspirations to add additional services down the line, but if you add a lot of services to your application, they're going to look at all those uses to see if it's approved for that area. And then likewise, business tax may ask for additional information because each use has a certain segment of the code as a category. And so that also affects your bill. So if you have one main thing that you're going to do, but you've listed 4 things, which are all allowed, but then when you actually come to pay for your business tax receipt, those 4 items may be categories that are part of your bill. So you also want to factor in, the main thing that you're going to do for your business. So once it goes to the business tax receipt, they then contact the business tax division. That they then contact the building department for what they call their occupancy type and use inspection, or BTR, business tax receipt inspection. And so a staff member from the building department actually will go and look at the interior space and look at, if based on how your use would be defined by the Florida Building Code, which again is a different document than the zoning code. So when he's looking from the zoning code within the city to see what uses are allowed, or what we call permitted, or what uses require city council approval. Now, when you're going to the building department, they're looking through the lens of the Florida Building Code. How does the Florida Building Code define your type of occupancy? And then how does the Florida Building Code define your type of use? And is the physical space that you're going to occupy in compliance with that? If it is not, and it's noted that there are deficiencies, then what will happen is you might fail that inspection, and then they would have to have you come in with a designer who would lay out your floor plan, submit an application to the building department, and then probably a general contractor, if they have to make renovations, apply for a permit. And then once those corrections are addressed, and the corrections again would be from the Florida Building Code for the building department, but then also from the fire prevention code from the fire district. But once any deficiencies are corrected, then you can move forward to the business tax division, and the business tax division will complete the rest of the process. So again, depending on the type of business that you are in, you may have some additional documentation that you'll have to submit to business tax. If your business requires that you have a license with the state, they may then require a copy of that license as part of the application process. And so there are 3 tiers, planning and zoning, then building, then business tax division to get your business tax receipt. So the business tax receipt is an annual receipt. So once you've paid for it, it's good for our fiscal year. So our fiscal year is October 1st through September 30th. And so around summertime, that's when the business tax division will send out notifications for your renewal. And so you'll have until the end of September to renew your tax receipt. If not, if it's renewed after September 30th, and you'll then incur penalties in October, November, and December. So, again, the tax receipt is tied to our fiscal year versus a calendar year. So if you got a tax receipt and didn't pay the bill, and now you're into a no calendar year in January, then you may have a penalty tacked on, because technically your bill should be paid by October 1. If it's paid afterwards, then it incurs penalties. But that's kind of a brief synopsis of the process to obtain, a business tax receipt. Again, the overall process is shepherded by the business tax division. So once you make application, they in turn are coordinating with the planning and zoning department and the building department. Intermittently, you may have questions that come up from those departments that you answer directly, but for the most part, it kind of circulates within the departments as you're going through the review and approval process until you are finally approved. One of the things that he touched upon also is in Port St. Lucie, you have what's known as compliance review. That's something that the building department would require before they issue a permit. So with compliance review, that basically, the way I explain it is, you have planning and zoning, utility systems department, and the public works department. And so anything that I would deem is horizontal, meaning that if there are any utility systems that you have to connect to, if there's any site work that you'll have to modify that might affect public works, and then likewise, if there are any things in the within planning and zoning that have to be adhered to for them to approve, you're doing all that first before you go vertical, which is the building department and permitting. So you also want to factor that in. So if you do need to make any modifications to a space, that's 2 steps that you have to go through compliance review and then to the building department. One thing of note as well for business owners is when you're going through the process, you're interacting more, your professional team is interacting more with staff than you are. So, if you are, applying for a permit, it's really the general contractor that's applying for the permit, not you directly. And so the building department is going to be interacting more with the design professional or architect or the contractor. Again, I could check to find out the status of it, but the interaction is going to be more with the professionals versus you as a business owner. And then likewise with planning and zoning, if your application now necessitates a site plan amendment, then your civil engineer may be working more with planning and zoning and going through that process than you as the applicant. But I'm kind of the ombudsman between the applicant, the professional team, and the departments, and so you can feel free to contact me or email me to then follow up with the departments to see where you are in the process. I will stop sharing the screen and we will check in for any questions. And again, let's see. You all are able to unmute, or if you prefer to submit questions in the chat box or Q&A, you can do that as well.
Hi, Elijah. This is Rich Voller. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks for doing this very much. I'm with the NAI South Coast, and I met you at that data center a few weeks ago up there.
Yes.
We did a tour, and I can't get my video on, so you can't see me, but I did meet you once before. Thank you. Was it possible to email us, or could we email you to get a copy of that chart that you had on the screen? I'd like to share that with the other agents in the office so they all have a copy of that.
Sure. Let's see. Let me do this. In the chat box, I'm going to put my email address.
Okay.
And then that way you can email me and vice versa. If you want to leave me your email, I can send it to you as well.
Great. Yep.
There we go. But yeah, we can definitely send that out to you. I know there was a registration process to attend today's workshop, and so I'll also check with communications and get the addresses. Got it. Thank you.
There you go.
Great. Thanks. Got it.
I have your card, but I think it's at home in one of my sport coats that I wore that day, so I don't have it with me.
Yeah, and I got to wear some sweaters and coats today. It's a little chilly.
I know. It's cold.
It only lasts a couple of days, so we should be out with it.
Yep. They say the iguanas will be falling tonight, so.
Yeah, you have to get a heavy duty umbrella for South Florida for falling iguanas.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much again. I'm gonna mute my thing, but thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for participating.
Hey, Elijah. This is Jeff, also from NAI South Coast. How are you doing?
Good, Jeff. How are you this morning?
Thanks so much for putting this on. Could we email you to get all of the presentations, or should we reach out to every presenter individually?
No, that's fine. You can email me,
Okay.
and then I can forward you the presentations from today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. Hey, any other questions or comments? And again, from Isai or Teresa, any closing comments you'd like to make for a group today?
Just thanks for doing this. I really do appreciate it. I can't wait till we can do it in person, because I feel like we imbibe people with donuts and coffee.
That's true. Well, I was laughing. I attended the Economic Development Council luncheon yesterday, but it's been a while since I've been in the rounds for the chamber breakfast and the EDC lunch. So I've had a chance to shed a few pounds due to COVID because I haven't had a chance to go to all these events, but I look forward to seeing everybody in person again. Definitely.
Me too. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I appreciate you spending the time with us as well.
Great. Thank you all. Isai, any other comments you'd like to make? Or
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for putting this together. I'm glad those of you that tuned in to listen to this. There's one thing actually I did want to add, is something that Elijah had brought up, and it's the review of the uses. I do think that it's important to be present, when you submit these forms, submit the use that you are ready to start doing, because if you submit all the uses, even the ones that you're not ready for yet, but maybe you're going to do a year or two down the line, you will be reviewed for all those uses. and that will slow down the review. Unless you want to know right there and then, because you want to stay in this space for extended period of time to know what you can or cannot do. But also keep in mind that codes change. So I always think it's better to be present. Muted because, all right, sorry about that. But when you, let's say a year down the line, you want to add another service, well, you can always update your occupancy use form. You know, you'll update that form, you'll submit it, and you'll be reviewed for that other use. But, you know, to get yourself in the door, you know, the use that you're ready to begin doing, that is the one that you should start with on that form.
Correct. Good point.
That's it.
All right. Well, again, we thank you all. We will be doing these quarterly. So our next one, I believe, will be in May, but we do have a flyer as well. So for any members of your team who weren't available today, you know, we ask that you share the information for our next workshop. And again, to Teresa's point, hopefully in the next few months, we can do this in person because I look forward to some coffee and donuts. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Elijah. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye.